Earlier this week, the African Democratic Congress presented 42-year-old politician and entrepreneur Ahmed Buhari as running mate to his presidential candidate, the equally young Dumebi Kachikwu, ahead of next year's elections. Mr. Buhari, who on his own right ran to become Nigeria's president during the last general election in 2019, albeit on the platform of another political party, now joins us to, among other things, discuss the expectations of the joint ADC ticket and plans to engage and mobilize greater support among the youth. Good morning, Mr. Buhari. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Good to have you join us. Thank you so much. Well, let's start this way. Congratulations that you are now the running mate to Dumebi Kachikwu. Two young guys, less than 50s in your 40s, trying to take on the enormous job of running Africa's biggest country, biggest economy. How prepared are you, and what do you think qualifies you for this role? And also, equally important, do you think that Nigerians will be ready by 2023 for yet another Buhari?
So, thank you for having me. First of all, age is not a function of good leadership. You know, for many of us, we think that because Nigeria is probably the largest economy in Africa, and so it comes a little bit weird when you hear young people are about to handle the economy, an economy that is largely dominated by young people, an economy that when you go to the private sector that is thriving across board, you find very young people running the show. You find people in their 20s and 30s doing great things for Nigeria and across Africa, as a matter of fact. Unfortunately, when you come to the political sphere where you see very old people who are tired and are stuck to old ideas that are not going to give us anything new. This is not to say that the old people do not have anything to offer, but I do believe that a mix has got to happen. And as I speak with you right now, most of the development we've experienced in our country's history happened during the time of very young presidents or head of states. And the irony of all of this is, as much as they did well 40, 50 years ago, they are still stuck to those ideas, and those ideas cannot work for us today. So yes, indeed, I appreciate that you're congratulating me for becoming the vice presidential candidate to support Mr. Dumebi Kachikwu, who is the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress. And together, we believe that we're going to appeal to Nigerians, especially with the viewpoints that we have. We have clearly said that we're not here to attack anybody. We're not here to demean anybody, but we're going to do as much as possible to ensure that Nigerians understand that we're here to speak about the solutions that can get us out of the economic situation, the poor economic situation that we're currently in, and most importantly, the insecurity that we're currently experiencing.
I'm glad you brought up security, because both yourself and your running mate, both yourself and your party standard bearer, have been quite vocal as it pertains to criticizing the current administration. If we look at recent newspaper headlines in terms of security, Kachikwu did talk about how they are eliciting panic, and people who didn't understand the country think it's in a state of war, while those who've been deceived by the government think that all is well. Now, can you give us a bit more clarity on what you think the issue with security is, and what solutions you plan to bring to this country should you become president and vice president?
So Dumebi and I know very well that the issues around insecurity, as many other candidates have spoken about, you hear people come here and say, I'm going to stop the insecurity problem in the first 3 months in office, the first 100 days in office, and those things aren't really true. I would like Nigerians to, look at the issues very well and understand that the only person in this country, as I speak with you right now, that has got the true knowledge of the insecurity situation in the country is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He is the one who receives security reports, security intelligence report on a daily basis. And he is the only one who can tell you exactly where the issues are, who the issues are with, who these terrorists really are, how many people are in captivity, except if they do not have those security intel reports. And so it would be funny for anybody to just wake up from the bed and say, I've seen the news and have, and I've understood the situations. We've got the DSS, we've got the NIA, we've got the police, we've got the military who actually present the security reports every day to the president. But from our perspective, we believe that one of the ways that you can actually fight this insecurity is, first of all, to increase the manpower of this paramilitary and the military itself. We are running a very, very slim military size, slim police size with very, very poor welfare. As I speak with you right now, many of the boys who have been arrested or captured by the Nigerian military would tell you that they get paid as much as 100,000 naira monthly by the terrorist groups. And when you put that side by side the Nigerian police, you can see that they're actually getting more paid than the Nigerian police. I mean, there are young people today who would say, I would rather be with the terrorists because I know that I'm going to be better paid than the Nigerian government. And as I speak with you also, it is very important for us to understand that as we sit down here right now, there are planes flying from Abuja to Kaduna trying to create some level of surveillance to ensure that nothing is going on there. We're at a time where we have drones. We have ballistic drones that can actually go around and give you information in real time. So why are we actually flying helicopters that are costing us about $300,000 a day? So I think the one thing that is wrong with our system is that many people have fixated themselves with the procurement processes that can give them returns. What can we do around this that I can get money from the aviation fuel, that I can get money from the consultancy charges, as opposed to creating avenues or presenting ideas and viewpoints that would not give you any room for all those kind of excess procurement, what do you call it? You pinch, right? You earmark and then you inflate the budget only so that something can come back or go to certain people. As I sit down here right now, I'm not a beneficiary of the insecurity that is going on in the country. My family is not a beneficiary of the insecurity that is going on in the country. Mr. Dumebi is not a beneficiary of this terror. So there's no how and there's no way we will get an opportunity to settle this problem and not fight it to the ground. The biggest problem here from the reports that we're gathering all over the place is that, just like Abacha said many years ago, if insecurity persists in your country more than 24 hours, the government knows something about it.
All right, Ahmed. You know that Nigerians have, a penchant for saying they would not like to waste their votes. And what informs that sort of thinking is that if they perceive that you are not likely going to win, they may appreciate you, they may sympathize with your cause, but they may not vote for you. Your good self and Dumebi Kachikwu are fairly new in the political sphere. You are young, lean political and public service experience. What are you bringing to the table using a platform that does not have a single governor, no single National Assembly member, and from what we are seeing so far, it doesn't look like you are even targeting any states that you can say, oh, in 2023, in the Northeast, in the Southeast, in the South-South, these states, are sure for us. And therefore, you are basically just running to be president and vice president. Is this realistic, or you are just doing this, for the optics?
No, it's not for the optics, definitely. The mantra we have right now is to rescue Nigeria. But you see, I like the fact that you started up from the fact that, you people are pretty much new. You don't have any blemish. You don't have any taint. You've not been accused of any corruption. You've not been tied to any, any criminal activity of that sort, which means that these are two very, very untainted guys. Now, I ran for office in 2019, and what you said was the truth. A lot of people saw us on the front line and believed that we couldn't win the election. And so as much as they supported and garnered support from us and went around with us to say the nice words, On the day of election, they still went back and supported the two major political parties, which is why at the end of the 2019 election, the two major political parties were able to garner about 29 million votes, while the other parties collectively were only able to raise about 300,000 votes. That's a huge gap in the election results that we saw. However, 2019 is very different from what we're experiencing today in 2023. For starts, there is no incumbency. So it means that everybody on the floor is going to be pushing for this whole thing. And now, what I want us to understand, especially when you talked about whether we've got the civil service experience, whether we've got government experience and all of that, you know, as much as I tell people all the time that the experience required for good leadership does not have to be earned through a political process, Dumebi and I are two young men who are very successful in our individual practices. Successful businessmen, we are huge employers of labor, and we have done this thing in such a way that the Nigerian people can actually see that we're not coming here to enrich ourselves. We can very well decide to go and live somewhere else around the world, but we're not doing it. I don't have a dual citizenship. Dumebi doesn't have a dual citizenship. We are two people who have decided that this is going to be a project we're going to be taking, not just necessarily because we want to be president or vice president, but because we want to see how we can rescue Nigeria. Now, most importantly, with all of the things that we're discussing, especially with the civil service, which I believe is the real bedrock for the corruption that we're experiencing, I believe that the civil servants, especially when I hear NLC going around to say, oh, we want 30% increment or we want 20% increment, and then they start negotiating with the government on the table. The moment they start that negotiations, the market woman on the side of the road, the guy pushing water down there, everybody starts thinking how they're going to increase their 30%. I'm thinking we're supposed to be talking about an NLC who is going to be advised, a civil service who's going to be advised that the best way to actually have a better life for yourself in such a way that you're not involved in corruption no more, in such a way that you're going to have a better life, is that you ensure that you're demanding for better welfare. Better welfare so that at the end of the day, a civil servant's child who is in school cannot be chased away from school because they haven't paid school fees, because that is going to be part of the package that the civil servant gets. Even though he's going to spend the next 35 years of his life in the civil service getting to the deductions for the payment of the school fees of his children in those schools. Look at tax rebate, for example. What stops a civil servant who has got a civil servant a number to go into shops, make purchases, and at the end of the year, put together all his tax deductions, present it to the government, and get his refunds? These are the ways that you can actually appease this sector that is, as I speak with you, the control for the entire economy, and say, we have made sure that the people that work for us as the pillar of the foundation of this country have been sorted in such a way that they will not put their hands in any money. The only reason why a man steals money to go and build a house is because there's no housing plan for him. The only reason why a man puts his hand in government purse to steal money is because he's afraid that his children are going to be chased out of school. The only reason why a woman, a director, would do such a thing is because she is not sure what her life is going to be after civil service. So we are coming with something different, definitely. We are not going to be like what you've experienced in the past. We are not going to be what... Obviously, everybody who's coming is going to be coming with what they've already done in the past. That hasn't taken us anywhere.
So are you saying then that your type of politics is one of socialism? Are you saying that you have the plan, you and your standard bearer, your flag bearer, to create a welfare state? Do you want to build a government that allows people to help themselves financially so that they can so that they can live a decent life? Can you just give me a bit of clarity on that? And then further, I do want to ask your thoughts on diversity in politics. If we look at the example of a Muslim ticket, how does that come across to you? When we look at your party's platform, obviously it's not a Muslim situation, but that has been the choice of another political party. On its face, how does that make you feel in a country that's so ethnically and religiously diverse? So just to recap, can you clarify, is it a welfare state? Are you trying to build a socialist government? And secondly, what are your thoughts on a Muslim ticket?
How far are we really from a socialist state as I speak with you? The government is telling us to spend trillions of dollars every year to pay for fuel subsidy in a country where more than 80% of us do not even have cars. In in a country where more than 80% of us still live in the rural areas, in a country where many people, as I speak with you right now, have got no way or no reason to even move. But then you are now subsidizing fuel with trillions of dollars as opposed to subsidizing food. As I speak with you, many people will choose food any day over fuel. There are a lot of people that are hungry that will still go and buy this fuel only in the hope that when they get to point B, they're going to make some money. But at the end of the day, nothing comes out. Everybody living in Nigeria is living a life of uncertainty. And that is why SAPA seems to have taken control over everything. And what we're saying clearly is this. As much as we're going to be running a government that is going to be targeting areas and sectors that we know have created this instability, especially around corruption, we're going to be ensuring that those people would realize that 20% increment in salary, 30% increment in salary, which is a direct reflection of inflation, would not be the issue anymore. They will now be thinking of, ensuring that their welfare is being taken care of. I'm talking about the principal officers controlling the entire government that runs our space. So, for example, you pick up your company profile, you go to a certain ministry, you are looking for a contract, which you are entitled to anyway, and you realize that at the end of the day, even if you're getting that contract, more than 80% of the money you're going to be realizing in profit is going to be going back to the key officers in that ministry. These people have been designed like that because the government hasn't prepared anything for them to fall back on. There's no cushion effect when they leave office. And so when you ask me about the Muslim ticket and what I think about all of that, you see, as much as I'm here to speak about the African Democratic Congress, but every time we go for all of these interviews, we're being redirected to speak about the two major political parties as though we're excited about them, when we know truly that we're not. But fundamentally, what I think we would have to talk about here is that I do not think that religion should be an issue. Religion, in all honesty, is not a replication of good governance. We have had presidents of all tribes, religions, and social status who have come to this country and have not been able to succeed. However, we have some lines in this country that if you look at, they may not exist, but you may not see them, but they do exist. Which is why in 2019, when we contested, I told every young presidential candidate at the time, I said, can we, focus on the fact that the country is expecting us to present them a Muslim candidate for now. And so we should just toe that line so that that imaginary line of religion and ethnicity and all of that will be followed in such a way that when we come back in 2023, we're going to support a Southern candidate. And I remember I had meetings with people like Dr. Kingsley Moghalu, and I said to him, look, you're not going to win this election in 2019. I'm not going to win this election in 2019. But our ability to come together and present to the Nigerian people that indeed, because we have the same views and values, regardless of our ethnicity, religion, and political party ideological affiliations, we can come together for the purpose of our country's unity. But he didn't see it that way. 2023 is here, and everybody, I was a strong advocate, I've been a strong advocate for a Southern candidate to emerge in 2023. And so we're here in 2023 and people are saying, why aren't you running for office of the president? And I said, if you followed my campaign keenly, I've always said it. In 2023, I believe the power should go back to the South. And for that reason, I decided last week that I'm going to be teaming up with Mr. Dumebi Kachikwu, who is the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, only so that we can create that unity from all sides and let people know that you can find competent people from left, right, center, north, east, west, regardless of religion, regardless of social status, regardless of political party ideological affiliations. And this is also a strong message to everybody on all sides of the divide. I've been telling everybody, can you for a second put the fact that you are a Nigerian before anything else? And so you hear people say, in the interest of my party. And I'm like, yes, your party is important, but can it be in the interest of Nigerians? So that at the end of the day, whoever is in APC, PDP, LP, NNPP would realize that they're first of all Nigerians before any party. Who party help?
All right, Ahmed, who party help? You have some considerable experience in the oil and gas sector as a consultant. I would love for you to speak to us a bit more on specifics that are required, what you think should be done, and what your party will do if you come to power. In the area of subsidy, will you remove subsidy? And the PIA, NNPC, has become commercialized, now NNPC Limited. How will you deal with the issue of NNPC, as a joint ticket holder if you become, a president and vice president to run Nigeria? And what will you do with the 4 refineries that are obviously draining the country?
Thank you. I'm glad you've come home. So I'm a geologist by training. I'm a geologist by training. I studied geology and I worked offshore for about 8 years around the Okoro field, Ima field, and I keep bragging and telling people that I was part of the people that were, working really hard in very harsh conditions, creating wealth for our country, only for politicians to put in their pocket. In all honesty, one of the biggest problems we have is the fact that we still do not have those refineries. Our production is going on well. There are a lot of hardworking Nigerians who are actually on the field right now ensuring that production is going well. We have very minimal cases of accidents and things like that. So what I'm expecting from a decent government, what we're expecting to do as a decent government is to ensure that we make refineries work. That is a priority for us. And the reasons why we talked about subsidy, you were asking me about subsidy, and I told you from the beginning that I would rather subsidize food and petrol. And even if I'm going to subsidize fuel, because obviously the refineries will take a while for us to put into full fruition, in all honesty, we should subsidize all of this in Naira and not in any other person's currency. The fact that we are dealing in other people's currencies is further depleting our economy. It's further devaluing our Naira. And so, yes, subsidy has got to go. And if we have to use all of that money to ensure that fuel is available for Nigerian people and then ensure that we divert all of this attention into public agriculture, and you're probably going to be asking me about education later, and I believe education in agriculture is in the center of all of this. And I've said it many times. I said if agriculture can be well taken care of, even the books that you're talking about giving kids in school for free can be gotten from agriculture. The food that you want to supply kids and you called it food for school children, free food for school children, it can be gotten from agriculture. What stops us from having that total value chain that is going to have a symbiotic relationship with the agricultural sector, supplying the educational sector, supplying the petroleum sector? So it's all intertwined. And I can't remember the second question you asked me as a rejoinder to the first one.
I asked you about NNPC and what you do if you come to power now that it's a commercialized entity. And I'd like to add to that. Are you saying in effect that you will vote more money for the turnaround maintenance of the refineries?
Yes, the refineries have got to function. We would have to refine our crude oil in Nigeria. That is the first step to helping us realize whether we we're truly an oil and gas country or not. And I think one of the biggest concerns that I have with the fact that we're still sluggish about whether we want to see that the refineries work is because there is some vested interests that are trying to divert our attention to other things. As I speak with you, I said something in my acceptance speech to run as the vice presidential candidate for the African Democratic Congress. I said, yes, indeed, our country is entangled in certain policies that we have signed with the international communities. There are certain treaties that we have signed with international communities. Though those treaties might have been signed in good faith, but as I speak with you right now, we would have to revisit those treaties because they are not helping Nigerians. It's either we revisit them, we renegotiate them on the table. It's either we find a way to remove them completely from our space because they're hindering our growth. If we would have to fight, we would have to fight. But as I speak with you, those treaties have been in place maybe 20, 30 years ago, and today they're not sustainable no more.
All right, Ahmed Buhari, I would have loved to go further than this and speak about education, but I'm afraid that we have totally run out of time. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we wish you the very best with ADC and your standard bearer.
Thank you.
Dumebi Kachikwu. Thank you.
Thank you.